Hello everyone and welcome. In this short video I will show you in details how to install cement boards and waterproof your shower. Before installing any cement boards, you want to coat the area around your shower pan with waterproofing membrane. This simple step will protect the liner from separating from your shower pan and prevent any water leaking between the liner and the pan, and also prevent the water from being absorbed into cement boards. You don't want to coat the entire pan, just a small area about 1.5 inches wide, and you can apply either 1 or 2 coats. While it dries, I will show you how to measure and cut your cement boards for your shower curb. Because this is your starting point, you want to wrap your entire curb with cement boards and waterproof it before installing any wall boards. First thing, before measuring your curb, just check how level it is. Because your slab might not be perfect and sometimes it's quarter to up to 1/2 inch off on the entire length of your shower. So you can either shim the 2x4 when you're building your shower curb or level it with the cement boards. Once you measure your width, you want to measure the height of your curb on both sides and add 1/4 inch for the slope. Then you want to transfer your measurement to the cement boards. One thing you want to make sure is to have that nice finished surface with the edge guard on the outside and inside of your curb. To cut the cement board, the best tool is the grinder with a diamond blade that can be used with either battery powered or corded grinder. Alright, the best way is to have a few tarps to protect your work area from the dust, then a few 2x4s or levels to raise the cement boards from your floor. You want to have at least 2-inch distance from your cement boards to your floor below, otherwise you might cut into it while you're cutting the cement boards. While cutting the cement boards, make sure to wear the protective glasses and a dust mask, or you can use a fan to blow away the dust from you. Cement boards are not the easiest or cleanest to work with, but the most durable shower wall boards out there. There's so many different substitutes, but over the years I've seen this cement board would outlast anything else, and they will, even if they absorb moisture, they still stay intact. They don't swell up, they don't actually crumble into tiny pieces, so they're the strongest type of board that you can actually get out there. So it's not easy to work with, but you're only gonna handle it for a few moments, but it's gonna make your shower last so many years longer. Once you cut that outside piece of cement board, it should look like this, just to make sure you have that nice finished edge on top. Before installing it, you check the level again, because that outside piece must be in perfect level, and it should be 1/4 inch above your curb. To install your cement boards, you want to use a special 1 5/8 inch screws that are designed to be used with cement boards. They're basically a little bit thicker and they have a coating that prevents them from rusting. When you measure an inside piece of cement board, you want to measure from the edge of your curb to the shower pan and subtract 1/4 inch. This will create a small gap between your pan and the cement board. On average, that piece should be either 1.5 inches up to 2 inches wide, depends on how thick your shower pan is. And again, it's very important to have that edge guard on it, otherwise it might break when you try to install it. If you have time, the best practice is to cut and waterproof that inside piece completely from every side and let it dry, and then apply another coat when you install it. Now I'll show you how to install it. You want to use the same special screws, and you want to place them about 1/2 inch to 3/4 from the top edge of it and about 5 inches from each end of it. And you want to have them about 10 to 12 inches apart. Now we get into a very messy part of it, which is waterproofing that piece. First, I'm going to waterproof small area where the shower pan meets the liner, so there's no direct contact between board and the pan. And I'm going to coat that entire cement board with a thick layer of waterproofing membrane. By completely waterproofing this entire piece, you will prevent any moisture being absorbed into it. And you'll create watertight seal around the screws that hold it in place. When you're installing it, you want the top edge to be flush with the curb. In case your curb is out of level and you had to adjust that board on the outside, you will have to level it from the inside as well. Once it's secured properly with the water resistant screws, I will waterproof it again. In order to create a slope on your curb, that outside piece was installed 1/4 inch higher than the inside. That's why you want to use the thin set to fill in the middle part. Once the entire curb is nice and solid, you can measure and install the top piece. That should overlap the previously installed cement board strips and slightly overhang the inside piece no more by the 1/8 of an inch. You want to spread a thin layer of thinset, either using 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch trowel on the side that is facing the curb that already has a layer of thinset on it. This will help to bond two pieces together. Most important is you want that cement board to overhang the both pieces on the inside and outside. And I usually cut it 1/8 of an inch wider so I can pack more thinset on top of that inside shower piece. If you want, you can add a few screws to the outside edge of that curb to secure it better. But if you don't want to puncture the liner, the thinset underneath will bond it very well. Now I'm going to coat the entire curb with a layer of thinset that will help me bond the mesh to it. Because mesh is 10 inches wide and it's gonna overlap the entire curb from the inside, top and outside. It's a pretty messy process to install this mesh, but it will strengthen the entire curb. You can buy this mesh in any stucco supply store. They come in different colors, width and thicknesses. Most common places I use this mesh is over the pre-slope, shower curb and the shower pan. I also use it over plywood or cement boards whenever I need the extra strength. Once you install the mesh and coat it with a thinset, you can use a wet sponge to smooth out the surface. Once your curb is nice and smooth, you can coat it with a waterproofing membrane. I will use 4-inch paintbrush to apply it. Sometimes waterproofing membrane will shrink and crack, that's why you have to apply several coats to make it 100% waterproof. As you can see, the entire curb is nicely waterproof. The most important thing when you're building your shower is to install and waterproof your curb first, before installing any cement boards on the wall. This is a very common mistake that can cause your shower to fail. As you can see, we got about 1/4 inch of slope on that curb that prevents any water accumulating on its surface. And now I'm going to show you how to install the wall cement boards and waterproof your shower. Before installing any cement boards on the shower walls, you have to make sure that your walls are flat and level. And any wall brace that sticks out, you have to make sure you recess it. And then you should prep your shower walls before installing your shower pan liner, so you can watch my previous video on how to get it done. When installing the cement boards, I will usually start with the main wall that is most of the time about 5 feet. In my case, it's about 54 inches, so I have to trim off a few inches from it. And the best practice is to measure your cement board in 2 places. You want to measure on the very top where it actually meets the ceiling, and at 3 feet lower. That way you can compare if the walls are perfectly level and straight. Once you measure your shower width, you want to subtract a 1/4 inch from it. That will give you some room when you're actually installing your cement boards. So you want to have at least 1/8 of an inch gap on both sides of it. If you're working by yourself, it's a good practice to preset your screws on both sides of the cement board. To make the installation even stronger, you can also use the liquid nails on top of your 2x4s right before installing that cement board. You want to lift it up and press it firmly against the ceiling and then use the impact tool to install it. To install the cement boards, you can use the 1.5/8" screws. Then you want to use your level and mark the 2x4s and then draw the lines on the surface of the cement boards so you can drive the screw right in the middle of it. Once your top cement board is nicely secure, then you can measure the bottom one. You also want to subtract 1/4 inch from your measurements to make your board fit better, but on the very bottom of your cement board you want to cut a little bit more. As you probably noticed, your rubber liner is pretty thick, and however you fold it, it will always create the bump on the very bottom of your shower. That's why you want to cut corners to make your board fit even better. The best way is to trim off bottom corners by about 1/4 inch on the 5 inches from the bottom of your board. And you want to trim it on a slight angle by cutting 1/4 inch on the very bottom and then 5 inches above, just narrow it to pretty much nothing. The best way is to install that cement board 1/2 inch to 3/4 above the shower pan. That way your cement board will not have direct contact with the pan. Once you secure it in place, then you can use your level to mark the 2x4s and you can measure and cut that middle piece. Then you want to connect top with the bottom line and finish up installing your boards. You want to use liquid nails on top of your 2x4s and screws every 5 to 6 inches. On the left side we have the shower valve, and the distance from previously installed cement board is 38 inches. That means that 36-inch wide board is not wide enough for us. Most showers are less than 36 inches wide, that way you can install that board vertically, but in our case we still have to cut it horizontally because it's 36 inches wide. Once you measure your shower width, then you want to measure for your shower head. The best way is to measure from the wall to the center of your shower head and from the ceiling to the center of your shower head. Then you can transfer your measurements to the cement board and then use the 1.25 inch drill bit and just cut out the opening. Once you mark your 2x4s and secure your cement board, then you can measure the bottom piece and install it. Just to make sure that your cement board is 1/4 inch or 3/4 above that shower pan. And when you measure around your curb, just to make sure to be very exact, but even if you leave the 1/4 inch gap, you can still fill it out with the thin set and then use the fiberglass mesh over it. When you measure around your valve, you can measure from the wall to the valve plastic cover or to those metal tabs on both sides of it. Once you transfer your measurement to the board, the best way is to use the grinder with a 4-inch diamond blade to cut out that opening. On the right side of the shower, the installation goes a little bit easier because I just have to cut the notch around the curb and then install that first cement board 1/2 inch above the pan. And I was actually able to install that cement board vertically because of the transition from the drywall to the cement board was right in the middle of that curb, versus on the left side was on the outside of it. So the width was 36 inches, so I could use the whole piece. So it was a lot easier to cut it versus using smaller pieces. And the cement boards are done, and I used 8 pieces of them to cover the entire shower area. And as you can see, every seam already has a special mesh tape on it. This is 2-inch wide extra thick mesh tape that you wanna use on every seam when the 2 cement boards meets together. The best way is to do horizontal line first and then vertical lines. This is a lot stronger tape versus the one that you use on the drywall, and you can find it in any tile supply stores or Home Depot or Lowe's. The most important area to waterproof is your curb, especially the place where the wall cement boards meets the curb. You want to fill any gap with a thin set and apply the mesh over it and then thin set it again. On the shower walls, you can apply the mesh first and then coat it with a thin set. The best tool to apply your thin set is 6-inch taping knife, and you want to use a regular thin set or anti-fracture thin set. When you mix it, just add a little bit more water and it will be easier to spread it. And you just want to apply a thin layer over the tape, and then just make sure you don't use too much of it because you might create a bump on the surface. For your corners, you can use the inside corner trowel. It will spread the thin set more evenly and it will cover the entire corner. If you don't have one, you can also use your tapping knife. It's just only gonna take you a little bit longer. Once all the seams are ready, I will coat the entire shower using 12-inch taping knife. This will strengthen the entire cement board and it will prevent them from flexing, and it will cover all the small holes in it. This step will smooth out the entire shower surface and it will make your waterproofing a lot easier. Once you coat your shower with a thin set, you can just use a wet sponge and just glide it over the surface and it will smooth out any imperfections. Then you can use a 4-inch paintbrush and apply waterproofing membrane. The best practice is to apply a thin layer over the entire shower, then wait till it dries and apply the second coat over it. You can apply your waterproofing membrane over the wet thin set, or you can wait till it dries. You don't want to apply a very thick layer of waterproofing membrane because it will shrink when it dries. It's always better to have 2 or 3 coats versus one thick one. As you can see, the cement boards are installed 1/2 inch above the shower pan. They don't have direct contact with it, so they will not absorb any moisture from it, and you won't have any problems with the mold in the future. As I mentioned earlier, your shower curb is more important than your shower walls, so you want to have several coats on your shower curb and at least 2 coats on your walls. I hope this video helps you to understand the entire process of installing cement boards and waterproofing your shower walls. If you learned something new, please like this video, subscribe, and in the next video I'll be showing how to install that shower floor tiles. If you have any questions, just leave the comments below and I will try to answer it as soon as possible. Thanks for watching and I will see you soon.